Good evening, lovers of the limelight and keepers of whispered truths. Welcome back to Secrets Behind the Stars, the corner of the internet where we don't just watch the glittering parade of celebrity life, we read the currents beneath it. Tonight, a file finally opens, a dossier fans have begged us to decode, because this isn't only about two ambitious productions, it is about the path of a leading lady who understands the battlefield of fame. Our spotlight turns to Ebru Şahin, and the question that has split comment sections into rival camps: is her most indelible spark found in the slowburn world built with Akınözü, or in their bolder, grittier chapter that ran headfirst into the merciless wall of ratings? Before we lift the veil, make sure you're subscribed to Secrets Behind the Stars. If you value deep dives over shallow noise, tap the like button and join our inner circle by clicking join. Your support is the scaffolding that keeps this entire show standing, the reason we can examine not only what's on the screen, but the choices, risks, and compromises humming behind it. Let's clear the stage. In the chaos of gossip, some statements quiet fires, and some ignite them. When Ebru Şahin faced the microphones and was asked to weigh her experiences, one world with Akınözü that blossomed slowly and drew global fans to her side, and another, darker collaboration that promised heat and danger, her response was flawless diplomacy with a quake underneath. She didn't pit one saga against the other. She didn't throw a match. Instead, she offered a line that sounded simple until you listened closely: two worlds, one heart working honestly. It didn't soothe the noise so much as reshape it. She wasn't ranking memories. She was telling us how an artist survives. What did she mean? Listen between her words and you hear an admission: chemistry is not a single spark. Chemistry is a system. It is rehearsals that run past midnight, silent respect at call time, the humility to leave space for a partner's rhythm. It is also the patience to endure edits you didn't choose and notes you didn't ask for. In other words, the screen romance fans ship with hashtags actually rides on mechanics more delicate and more brutal than anyone wants to admit. To feel the weight of that, return to The Anomaly, the slowburn saga that felt like a hearth in a storm. It was the kind of show built brick by brick, an adaptation with global appeal, a love story soldered to a crime-laced world but told with restraint, glances, and a hush that invited the viewer to lean in. On that set, the phrase, quiet harmony, wasn't a slogan, it was a method. Akınözü, famous for speaking little and delivering oceans, brought an anchored force, the gravity that fixes a scene even when the room is buzzing. Ebru Şahin arrived with pulse and light, a responsive energy that catches subtleties and throws them back in new colors. They negotiated the rhythm like two musicians sharing a single melody: him, steady; her, vivid; together, balanced. Whispers from behind the camera say that balance did not happen by chance. It was calibrated through long rehearsals, careful blocking, and a mutual pact to protect each other's process. The work was meticulous, not mystical. But the clock is a cruel co-star. Back home, the series fought late slots and a local audience thirsty for adrenaline. The pacing that made international fans swoon asked domestic viewers for patience they didn't have on a weeknight. The result was a paradox. A show celebrated abroad, streamed and debated around the world, while the home rating charts shrugged. The lesson was sharp. Even with authentic chemistry, time and format can drag a winning duet into a stalemate. Across the divide stood the darker chapter, the one that felt like a midnight dare. Here, the promise pulsed differently: quick cuts, danger in the air, a love simmering at arm's length in a world of smoke, steel, and consequence. This project wasn't built to whisper. It was built to stalk. Akın's presence shifted from hushed gravity to a blade's glint, commanding, physical, relentless. Ebru stepped into the storm with a different armor, fiercer edges, bolder beats, the courage to hold the camera's gaze when it dared her to blink. But the engine that made this beast roar was tuned at a breakneck pace. Schedules tightened until sleeplessness became a costume. Scripts were revised with hands still warm from the printer. Scenes that should have incubated were forced to sprint. The cast found themselves reaching for emotional anchors that moved with every draft. In the beginning, the friction was intoxicating, the distance that aches, the eye contact that barters secrets, the silences that say too much. The internet lit the room. Clips spread like sparks in dry grass. The pitch worked, until pressure did what pressure always does. When the second stretch arrived, momentum became a negotiation between art and arithmetic. The channel studied curves. New writers rotated in. Threads of story went exploring and didn't always return. What had started as a straight-cut noir line broke into knots. Fans who came for a dark fever dream suddenly had to chase a map that kept redrawing itself. And then came the moment that always feels colder than it should, the decision, quick and steel-edged, to end it. The blame game machine rolled into position, as it always does. Was Akın too intense for a weekly slot? Did Ebru's tenderness clash with the genre's iron taste? Sensational questions, neat and convenient. But if you listen to Ebru's careful wording, a different truth emerges. Sometimes the story leaves its actors stranded. She can hold an emotion until it burns through a screen. He can anchor a scene so solid it doesn't sway in a storm. None of that matters if the spine of the narrative bends under its own weight. Ebru's reflection, projects bending to audience wins, sounds like a platitude until you hear the strain behind it. What she's saying is that craft doesn't always survive the tug-of-war between vision and trend. She insisted that the connection she built in one world lived in the other too, which is not vanity. It's a statement of duty. She showed up with the same honesty every time, left her pulse on the set every time, and then watched the edit suite and scheduling gods reroute the journey. Fans split along clean lines. One camp clung to the slowburn truth: love that doesn't shout is still thunder. They argued for the dignity of held breath, the romance of endurance, the way a hand hovering inches away can say more than a kiss. The other band hammered for the dark duo. Modern, alive, pushing past the tender rules, asking two stars to drag each other into a fever neither could contain. Between them, the clip machine spun. Old scenes resurfaced, angles dissected, pauses weighed like evidence in a courtroom only fandom could build. But the quiet revelation humming underneath the frenzy was Ebru's evolution. Popularity is a wave. Strategy is a compass. She didn't only pick projects for hype, she chose them to stretch and resist a single label. With Akın, she proved she could carry a classic romance through a labyrinth of danger without losing its heartbeat. In the darker chapter, she showed that the same partnership could detonate in a different register, that she could be both the wounded gaze and the blade behind it. Her creed, learn from exceptional partners, treat every set as a workshop, rang louder than any temporary chart toppers. Here is the stark arithmetic everyone tries not to say out loud. The disciplined balance she shared with Akın could not rescue a patient show from late-night indifference at home, and their wildfire intensity could not save a noir from collapsing under erratic storytelling. The victor and the casualty, in both tales, was the narrative itself. On Monday morning, a chart can crown the week or sign a death notice. Neither talent nor chemistry carries enough armor to win a war the script has already lost. And yet, listen to the steadiness in Ebru's tone and you hear a manifesto for survival. Partners evolve. Sets go quiet. Numbers roar and then fade. A career is not a sprint, it's a pilgrimage. She didn't reach for an easy scapegoat. She credited her colleagues, respected the grind, and named the storm for what it was. You can only control your craft, your discipline, your truth. The rest is weather. As the dust settles, this saga refuses to vanish. It lingers as a case study for anyone who has ever asked why two dazzling stars sometimes appear brighter in still photos than in weekly ratings. It reminds us that chemistry is not sorcery. It's a practice dance, timing, trust, and 1,000 unglamorous choices. Abroad, the slow burn chapter found applause that still travels, a chorus that keeps returning to those early, careful steps. At home, the darker experiment leaves a tantalizing echo. What if the engine had held? What if the map hadn't redrawn itself mid-journey? These questions will keep the comment sections alive for years. Through it all, one constant refuses to blur, Ebru Şahin at the center, and Akın Akınözü as the counterweight that keeps her orbit honest. In one universe, they build with patience, in the other, they torch the horizon. In both, their names anchor a story larger than any single trend. The verdict, if there is one, belongs to the viewers who watched every breath and blink, who can tell you exactly when a glance turned into a promise. So tell us, which world lives louder for you? The measured, aching climb that dared to whisper amid chaos, or the shadowed love story that wanted to run and kept being told to walk a different line? Drop your testimony below. And if you want the unvarnished dissections others won't touch, support the work by hitting join. Your membership keeps Secrets Behind the Stars independent, stubborn, and focused on what truly matters, the choices artists make when no one's looking. We'll close the folder, for now. This conversation will not fade, it will circle back the next time these two step onto a set, the next time a producer stares at a graph and forgets there are human hearts on the other side of the curve. Remember what tonight proved: the show goes on, past applause, past cancellations, past gossip's looping echo. In the end, only the work remains, shaped by two performers who understand that chemistry is built, guarded, and sometimes asked to fight battles it cannot win. Until our next deep dive, this has been Secrets Behind the Stars, where we read the story beneath the story and refuse to look away when the numbers speak louder than love.